Ever walked down the aisle of your local supermarket, picked up a bag of chips or a chocolate bar, and felt something was off? You stand there for a second. The price on the shelf is exactly what you remember. The packaging looks familiar, but the bag feels lighter in your hand. The sound when you shake it is slightly hollow, like there is too much air inside. You hesitate, but then you convince yourself it's just your imagination. You tell yourself you are just misremembering things. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You are not imagining it. You are not paranoid. And you are certainly not crazy. While the news headlines have been shouting about inflation numbers, interest rates, and stock market volatility, a much quieter, much more subtle process has been eroding the value of every dollar you spend. It is not just about prices going up anymore. It is about value disappearing from the inside out. The products you love are shrinking. The services you rely on are being hollowed out. This is the invisible tax. This is the great vanishing act of the modern economy. Welcome to finance. Exveal. Today we are exposing the Shrink-Skimp Phenomenon of late 2025. We are going to pull back the curtain on how groceries, subscriptions, and services are being engineered to offer you less while charging you the same. We are going to reveal the psychology, the economics, and the specific tricks used to deceive your brain. Let us start with the trick of the mind. It is a psychological loophole that corporations have mastered. Imagine a bottle of soda. If that bottle cost $2.50 in 2022, and it still costs $2.50 today, your brain registers this as stability. You look at the price tag and think, okay, good. No inflation here. My purchasing power is safe. But that feeling of safety is exactly what companies are counting on. Corporate economists know that consumers are incredibly sensitive to price tags. If they raise that soda to $3, it triggers immediate anger. It is called sticker shock. You might switch brands, or you might stop buying soda altogether. So, faced with rising costs, they choose a subtler path. They don't change the price. They change the product. Tehibe same sticker price. Fewer grams. Less substance. Consumer surveys are now backing this up. In the United States, over 50% of shoppers reported in 2025 that items they regularly bought had shrunk without a price increase. In Australia and the UK, consumer watchdogs have raised serious alarms about the lack of transparency regarding package size reductions. Take a look at the chocolate aisle. Iconic boxers that used to be staples of the holidays are lighter now than they were just 3 years ago. From the front, the packaging looks identical. The width and height are the same, so they look impressive on the shelf. But turn it sideways. The depth has vanished. The corners are rounded off. Inside the wrapper, the product has been shaved down. This is shrinkflation. It is a silent erosion of value that happens while the price tag appears stable. You are paying the same amount of money, but you are walking out of the store with 10 or sometimes 20% less product than you did before. It is a mathematical trick designed to drain your wallet without you ever noticing the leak. You might be asking yourself, if they're taking 10% of my food, why don't I notice it immediately? Why don't I feel the difference? The answer lies in a century-old principle from psychology and psychophysics called Weber's Law. Weber's Law, also known as the just noticeable difference, states that the smallest difference in a stimulus that a human can detect is proportional to the magnitude of the original stimulus. Let me put that in plain terms. If you're holding a heavy stone and I shave off a tiny pebble's worth of weight, you physically cannot feel the difference. Your sensory system isn't sensitive enough. Marketers and product engineers know this law better than anyone. They actually run tests to find this breakpoint. They bring in focus groups and ask, does this feel lighter? If the group says no, the company knows they can cut the weight further. They operate in the safe zone below your threshold of perception. They might shave off 3 grams this year, then another 4 grams 2 years later, then another 3 grams after that. Because the changes are incremental, spaced out over time, you never get that sudden shock. You don't feel robbed. You just accept the new normal. By the time you realize the product is half the size it used to be, a decade has passed. And the company has saved millions of dollars in raw materials money that came directly out of your pocket. If shrinkflation is about getting less, there is a nastier cousin you need to know about. It is called Skimpflation. And this is about getting worse. This is the trend dominating 2025. It isn't just that the quantity is being cut, the quality is being downgraded. Manufacturers are quietly rewriting their recipes. They are taking ingredients that were once considered essential or premium and replacing them with cheaper, inferior alternatives. Let's go back to that chocolate bar. Cocoa butter is expensive. Prices for real cocoa have skyrocketed due to climate issues. So, what do manufacturers do? Do they raise the price? Sometimes, but often, they reformulate. If you look at the back of the pack, you might see that cocoa butter has moved down the list. In its place, vegetable fats, palm oil, shea oil, cheaper fillers that mimic the texture of chocolate but lack the quality and the cost. The production costs drop for the manufacturer. The price tag remains the same for you. But you are eating a product that is objectively worse than what you bought a year ago. Tease isn't limited to food. It is rampant in the service industry. This is the Skimpflation of experience. Think about hotels. A few years ago, daily housekeeping was standard. Now, you often find a card saying housekeeping is by request only or available for an extra fee. They frame this as an environmental initiative. And while that may be partially true, the financial reality is that they just cut their labor costs by 30%. Did your room rate go down by 30%? No. It probably went up. Airlines are the masters of this. The seat is the same price, but the luggage allowance is gone. The meal is gone. The seat selection is now a paid aid. The product has been hollowed out from the inside, leaving only the shell of the transaction. Skimpflation is harder to detect than a change in weight, but its effect on your quality of life is undeniable. One of the most frustrating aspects of this phenomenon is how companies try to spin it as a benefit to you. They manipulate your perception through rebranding. Take a standard 200-gram bag of chips, shrink it to 150 grams, and slap a label on it that says new 100-calorie packs, or portion controlled. Suddenly, they aren't selling you less food, they are selling you health. They are selling you wellness. It sounds convenient. It sounds premium. But if you do the math, if you look at the price per ounce, you are paying a massive premium for the privilege of having the factory give you less product. Then there is the share size linguistic trick. Have you noticed that regular size doesn't really exist anymore? What used to be a standard bar is now tiny, and what is labeled king size or share size is often just the weight that the standard bar was 10 or 15 years ago. They have rewritten the baseline. They have successfully shifted the language so that you have to buy the large size just to get a normal amount of food. It is a brilliant, if devious, marketing strategy. They turn a reduction in value into a marketing advantage, and we thank them for it at the checkout counter. Do not make the mistake of thinking this is only happening in the grocery store. The invisible tax is rampant in the digital world, and this is where it hits the younger generations the hardest. We call this digital. Think about your streaming subscriptions. 5 years ago, a standard subscription might have given you 4K high-definition content, ad-free viewing, and the ability to watch on 4 screens at once. Fast forward to November 2025. Look at that same standard tier. What does it get you now? Often, it's downgraded to 108p. It might include ads, and you can only watch on 1 or 2 devices. If you want the exact same features you had 5 years ago, you now have to upgrade to the platinum or premium tier, which costs double. The service didn't get better. The basic tier just got worse. To force you to pay more. These is powered by the lock-in effect. This companies know that once you have built your playlists, your watch history, and your digital libraries, leaving is painful. The switching cost is high, so they know they can slowly degrade the value of the service, and you will likely stay and pay. Video games follow a similar model. It used to be that when you bought a game for $60, you got the whole game. Now, you pay $70 or $80 for the base game, but if you want the true ending, or the main characters, or the extra levels, Those are locked behind season passes and DLCs. Their full experience, they used to be one price, has been chopped up and sold back to you in pieces. The value of the base purchase has shrunk, while the total cost of ownership has exploded. So why is this accelerating right now? Why does it feel like 2025 is the peak of this trend? We have to look at the economics from the company's perspective to understand the machine. First, baseline costs are permanently higher. Labor, energy, and raw materials have settled at a new, higher plateau following the inflation spikes of the early 2020s. Second, and more importantly, there is corporate pressure. Publicly traded companies live and die by quarter-over-quarter growth. It is not enough to make a profit. They must make more profit than they did 3 months ago. But there is a limit. There is a limit to how many new customers they can find. And there is a limit to how much they can raise prices before people simply stop buying. So they are left with one lever to pull: efficiency. And in 2025, efficiency is code for giving the customer less pay. Quietly reduce quantity or quality to maintain their profit margins without triggering a public backlash. Economically, this distorts the entire picture of our country. The GDP numbers and consumer spending reports might look stable. The news might say, consumer spending remains robust. But those numbers measure currency, not value. If you spend $100 at the store in 2020 and $100 in 2025, the data says spending is flat. But if you walked out with 3 bags of food back then and only 2 bags today, your standard of living has collapsed by 33%. The data hides the reality. The real economy, the physical stuff you actually own and consume, is shrinking. This all sounds incredibly bleak. It feels unfair, but feeling powerless is exactly what they want. The truth is, you do have tools to fight back. First, awareness. That is why you are here. Simply recognizing that shrinkflation and skimpflation are happening breaks the psychological spell. You stop trusting the packaging blindly. Second, be a detective. Stop looking at the final price. Look at the unit price. In most countries, there is small print on the shelf tag that tells you the price per centigrams, or price per ounce. This is the only number that matters. It cuts through the new size marketing spin and tells you the mathematical truth of what you are buying. Third, check the ingredients. If a brand you used to love starts tasting different, turn the package over. If you see oil replacing butter or high fructose corn syrup replacing sugar, you have been scammed. Fourth, vote with your wallet. Brand loyalty is a tax. If a big brand betrays you by cutting quality, punish them. Switch to store brands or generics. In 2025, many generic brands are actually manufactured in the same facilities as the big names, just without the marketing budget and, often, without the shrinkflation. And finally, speak up. Social media is a powerful tool. When you catch a company cutting sizes, post it. Share the picture. Companies monitor social sentiment closely. If the backlash is loud enough, they are forced to listen. There is one final layer to this mystery we need to reveal. It explains why you feel broke even when the news says the economy is fine. It is called shadow inflation. Governments calculate inflation using the CPI as a consumer price index. They track the price of a basket of goods. But the CPI has a very hard time capturing skimpflation. The CPI tracks price well. It tries to adjust for weight, but it cannot measure quality. The government data does not capture the fact that your hotel room wasn't cleaned. It does not capture the fact that your customer service call was answered by a useless AI bot instead of a human. It does not capture that your chocolate is now made of palm oil. Therefore, the official inflation rate is effectively understating your reality. The shadow inflation, the loss of quality and service, means the real cost of living is higher than the charts show. This is why there is such a disconnect between the data and the vibe. You are living in the shadow inflation economy. So what is the verdict for November 2025? We are living among illusions. The packages look the same. The prices appear stable, but the value is vanishing right in front of our eyes. The invisible tax hits 1 gram, 1 ingredient, and 1 service at a time. It is a slow leak. Not a flood, but it drains your wealth just the same. But now that you see it, you have the power. Scan the unit rates. Check the ingredients. Cassian, every new and improved sticker. You see, if you have noticed these practices, let us know in the comments. What is the smallest, saddest product you have seen lately? What service has completely disappeared for you? If you want to see beyond the curtain of the financial world, make sure you subscribe to Financing. We don't just report the news. We expose the mechanics behind what you buy. Until next time, watch your wallet and read the fine print.